Now, Black Mirror is a very special show. Every episode explores some deep and complex concepts. For me, though, there's one episode that sticks out more than any. Few TV episodes can make me feel as much emotion as this one does. The many futuristic ideas that it explores and the dark path that it goes down takes your mind for a bumpy ride of unpredictability. You want likable characters? Too bad. You want a happy ending? Too bad. You want good to prevail? Too effing bad. Folks, it's December, and for me, nothing says Christmas like exploring some depressing, futuristic, ethical breaches, all of which stem from some very cursed technology. Welcome to the best episode on Netflix, White Christmas. Before we begin, I want to give a sensitive content warning. Today, we will briefly discuss the death of a fictional child. Unrelated, we will also mention murder and suicide. If this gives you any idea, Black Mirror is very heavy in other aspects too, so viewer discretion is strongly advised. Thank you. December 25th. Potter finally wakes up. It is indeed a white Christmas here in this cabin. There's Christmas tunes on the radio, and John Hamm stands in the kitchen cooking some sort of breakfast. A little bit of casual exposition back and forth, and we're told that first, it's Christmas, and these two don't have to work today. Second, they have barely talked in 5 years. John Hamm's character, Matt, casually tries to get Potter involved in a little bit of conversation. But Potter is very, very reserved, and he seems quite bitter. He doesn't even accept Matt's offer for a drink. In an attempt to get Potter to talk, and to eventually entice all the sci-fi fans, Matt tells us a story. This story involves our first major ethical dilemma, iLink. Right now, I do want to mention that although this is a crazy story, I believe it's mainly just to introduce us to this new technology. You'll see what I mean. iLink is some sort of chip in your brain. It puts a full-blown phone in your head, and the display is in your eyes. You can take photos, you can text, you can listen to music, and most importantly for Matt, you can stream. Matt's story consists of a risky side job. He basically runs a pickup women service, is what I thought at the beginning. Matt's client is going to a big office Christmas party, and he's not even part of the office. This is an aspect of Matt's strategy that apparently works pretty well. He has the client crash an office party on purpose, right? And then when the client's in any type of sticky situation, he'll just do some new face scanning things and get his ass out of it. Then most importantly, he helps them get women. He does this by isolating the woman that the client actually wants. This is another aspect of Matt's strategy that apparently works pretty well. Not this time though. No. This girl is different. She enjoys being left on the outside. We call this an outsider. The outsider gives the client a real test, and Matt is quick to supply all instruction from on the other side of the ear. This is the first point that I realized this is not ethical. Matt isn't just putting this guy in spots to meet women. He's full-blown talking for him at points. And how in the world does he just always know what to say? Oh, it's not just Matt on the other line. Yikes, man. I thought this was a help me talk to women service, not just a bunch of creepy guys hanging out in a Discord call. When this girl is in the bathroom, the client starts talking with Matt and company. As he's doing this, I'm sitting here freaking out because anybody at any moment could just walk up, and sure enough, there's the outsider. So you might expect her to be weirded out by Matt, but no, she pays no attention to it. This has solidified her decision. You see, because of the group's direction, the client really hyped up this outsider. He says things like, just do it, and this leads her to seize the moment. The outsider asks the client to go home with her, and this whole group does not stop watching even once they get there. Now they're seriously crossing the line, and it's becoming obvious they do this for each other often. You might even call it a twisted type of karma, because right when they think they're about to see something, the episode takes a huge turn. Back at the cabin, Potter is seriously questioning the morals of all this, just like me. It is important to say that we are shown some key details from the flashback that Matt does not mention to Potter, like the fact that he saw all of this. He does, however, let Potter know the end of the story. Unfortunately, the end of Matt's first tale is also the end of the outsider and the client. Once they got back to the apartment, the outsider made a drink for both of them to die from. She forced it down this man's throat. The whole time she's doing that, she's just talking about the voices that she hears in her head, just like he does. The client tries his best to explain how the people that he was talking to are real, but it's too late. Once all is lost, the group of perverts quickly wipe their technology and run away from the screen. From Matt's perspective, we can see that he has a clean-cut process for getting rid of all this, showing that they knew how unethical and illegal their actions were. I really do suggest that you watch the scene back with these two talking, because it's crazy how, when you're watching it for the second time, everything these men said dug the hole deeper and deeper for the client. This conversation pushes a girl who was already on the edge just enough to fall over, and that is unforgivable. And I'll tell you, Matt's wife agrees with that sentiment, because when she finds out about all this, she blocks him. And this is not like blocking on your phone. A block is a legally protected act. It blurs out the image and the sound of a person. So if you saw your ex in real life, they would just be a gray, muffled blob. Very creepy. Right at this moment, back inside the cabin, Potter has his first drink. Even though Potter is drinking, he's not exactly loose enough to share his stories. So then, we learn about Matt's real job. And somehow it's even more ethically breaching than his side hobby. Let me tell you what a cookie is. A cookie has to be the most controversial tech ever created in this world. All it is a little silver ball that gets implanted into your head. For a few weeks, it sits there and creates a perfect digital copy of your consciousness. Now, you can wrap your head around iLink, but this is a fucking concept. You have a digital copy of you that lives inside your brain, and when it's developed enough, it thinks it's you. It becomes one with your thoughts, as we're shown in this burnt toast scene. All we hear is the thought process of what we think is the rich woman. And you assume that is her brain thinking out loud for us to listen to. It lines up perfectly with what she says and does aloud. That must be her thought process. But as she goes under for surgery, we continue hearing the sound of her brain as if she didn't get put to sleep. But that's because we were only actually hearing the sound of the cookie. So the cookie's tweaking out because it thinks it's human. And now that it's missing so many senses, my mind is breaking. Scary stuff, but lots of questions here. Like, why does the cookie not immediately freak out because it can't do anything but think? And how long would it actually stay like you? Because once it gets taken out, there goes all your shared experience from here on out. I should really just pay attention though, because now the cookie is inside an egg. Then we finally get to see how this connects to Matt. Matt trains these cookies to be permanent servants for the real person. The human rich woman's brain copy inside the egg, which thinks it's real, has to serve the actual version of the rich woman living in the house, doing like common chores and making food and setting schedules and things. And the actual human rich woman is paying for this shit. Literally paying to torture a copy of your own brain. Fuck ethics. How do you not even have empathy for yourself? Jeez, sorry. Matt's job, right? So he's got to break in the cookie because obviously the cookie thinks it's human and doesn't want to be a slave to itself. Matt breaks her in by simulating a body and simulating certain amounts of time until the cookie conforms. First, he leaves it alone for 3 weeks and then alone for 6 months. Just completely on their own in this white room. Can't sleep, can't eat, can't do anything. Thank God, because at this point in the cabin, Potter points out that if the cookie thinks she's real, This is not okay. And I'm totally with Potter on this one, especially with what we find out later. But yeah, the cookie has finally decided that it's better to do mundane tasks than do nothing. It finally sits down at the control panel and starts its eternal job. 2 stories down, 1 to go. This time, Potter is ready to talk. He jumps into a story about a relationship with a girl named Beth. Fortunately, we are not here to review their relationship because, wow, it is a lot to unpack. Essentially, Beth was pregnant and didn't want the baby. The two had a very messy argument in which, if I can play therapist for a moment, they both fucked up. Potter called her a cold bitch for not wanting to have the kid. Like, maybe let's have a civil conversation before we jump to that level. And talk about jumping up levels, Beth just blocks him forever. The last thing she says is that she'll talk to him tomorrow, and nope. Cold bitch is harsh, but to not tell him the fate of the baby. Potter explains that he eventually found out for himself. He knew where Beth's dad's house was, and he knew that she goes there on Christmas. So every Christmas, he goes to this house and watches from afar. He sees that Beth had the baby, and even though the block covers offspring, he can tell it's a girl. Quickly to touch on the ethics of the total exclusion that blocking allows, I think it's very important to iterate that it is legally backed. So if I'm measuring it on the merits of this legal system, it's alright. Me personally, sitting here watching this in 2024, and especially for the first time, in this specific situation, this is wrong. You should at least give some type of closure. For many situations, besides you have someone else's kid in your belly, I completely understand. But I can't fully agree with this specific situation until we learn the true origin of the child. On the 5th Christmas, Potter visits the girl. This time, it was very different. The blur was gone. Beth had died, which was shown on a newscast earlier. Death removes the block. As Potter approaches the girl, you can feel the excitement all up until she turns around. Potter then realizes everything. Why she didn't want the kid, why she left without a word. She cheated during their relationship, and this kid isn't his. So now Potter's reached his breaking point. You can tell he can't handle the emotion as he follows the kid into the house. We see Beth's dad, and this man does all he can do to calm Potter down. But the interaction ends quickly. A blow to the head from a distressed Potter kills Beth's dad. Then Potter leaves. Matt promptly presses Potter for the real end of the story, the even worse crime Potter committed. When Potter left, the girl stayed hidden at first. Once she realized nobody was coming, she got up, gave her Christmas present to her grandparent, and walked out into the cold to try and find help. We cut back to real time permanently after the story. Matt keeps pressing and pressing Potter, wanting him to say he confesses. It takes a look out the window at a small pink coat lying still in the snow for Matt to admit his mistake and finally confess. Now, any empathy that I had for Potter was out the window. Jeez, no pun intended. That is dark. Right when Potter confesses, Matt celebrates. He's saying that he knew he could do it, and then vanishes in thin air. The cookie becomes more and more confused as we cut to Matt removing himself from some sort of machine. This is where we get told the reality of the cabin. The cabin isn't reality at all. It's an egg. The Potter that we've seen the whole time is a cookie with a simulated body. The real Potter is in jail, and he won't talk to the cops about anything. The cops brought in the perverted criminal Matt for his dating service, and in exchange for his freedom, they used him to get a cookie to confess. And guess what? This counts as a real confession. They can convict real-life Potter off of this cookie's confession. This means that the cookie in the egg is for sure unethical. the government considers cooking confessions real confessions, then you have to consider a cookie consciousness real consciousness. So is this not torture? Alright, so thank God there's only 5 minutes left in this episode. That's gotta be it. It's a crazy story. Solid twist. Matt goes free and Potter goes to jail. At least one got justice, I guess. But oh buddy, there's a few loose ends not tied up. First, Matt gets to go free, yes, but too bad for him, there are some terms. Matt is blocked. Blocked by who, you ask? Blocked by everybody. Somehow, even though this character is so messed up, I still feel slightly bad for him. No more interaction for a guy whose job was interacting. Brutal. At least he's not going through what this cookie is, though. As Matt's outside, somehow not losing his shit over a sea of gray figures, the cookie is still inside the simulation. And this dick of a cop somehow makes me feel bad for this prick. First, he turns on the music. Wish It Could Be Christmas Every Day by the Wizards. The cop makes sure the music cannot be stopped and then cranks up the simulation's timer to 1,000 years per minute. And they're leaving him on for Christmas. When all is said and done, this episode of Black Mirror is really gloomy. So why do I like it so much? Is it really just exploration of ethical dilemmas in the future? Not quite. For me, the true love for the episode comes from the creators taking unlikable characters and somehow letting the situations and concepts drop below their level. The fact that I can even feel the least bit bad for a creep and a murderer in less than 70 minutes, that says something for opportunity. The opportunity to breach ethics on a whole nother scale that's only brought with futuristic ideas. Just like this episode of Black Mirror, White Christmas. And with that, thank you, Todd, specifically you, Todd, and to anyone else who clicked on that. Actually, wait a second. There we go. I don't want to end this one too sadly, so I decided to put you in front of my crooked tree that looks straight because of the camera. I'll admit that today's topic made this video pretty dark in general, and I don't plan to do that all the time in the future, but when I do, I'll be sure to have some type of warning up front. It is a little weird that it's a Christmas episode and it's this glum, but I'll make up for it next year. Right at the end, I do want to say real fast, truly, thank you for watching. And I don't really know any other way to say that and sound more sincere, but getting to the end of this year and looking back on what this channel has done over the last 6 months it's pretty awesome, and it's all because of you guys, and I really appreciate that. I really appreciate all my family that sits in and watches these videos, and yeah, the closer we get to the end of the year, I think the more grateful I am becoming, or maybe just trying to become, and hopefully I can extend that to all of you, and you know, you can be grateful for maybe even the things like a crooked tree. So yeah, deuces.
And may all your Christmases